Hey, before you watch this video, make sure you saw the one before it on the Exposome explaining what it is, because it'll make a lot more sense. So it's just a few minutes of your life. Make the investment and be kind. Merry Christmas. Part one of this Exposome discussion, I tried to do a little explanation of why you want to think in a complete 360-degree way about all the stuff that affects your general health, especially your inflammatory system, and the way that that makes your asthma or your eczema or your arthritis or your bowel irritation syndromes, your sleep cycle, how those disruptors work, but how many of them are and where they come from and how they sort of interact. So a lot of that you can't do anything about, but there are things you can do something about. So that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. You can't do anything as an adult about your genetics. They are what they are. What you were exposed to in the womb, what you were exposed to as a child, whether those were chemical, environmental, sociological, or emotional stressors, all those things, that's in the past, right? You can't do a lot directly about all the pollutions and pesticides and PFAS and stuff that we're exposed to, but you can make some adjustments, right? But there are things that you can do. So if we go around the whole circle again, starting from genetics and working our way up through youth exposures and developmental things into hormones and stressors, bad habits, all the ways that different processed and fast foods are less than good for us, pollution, pesticides, fungi and bacteria in our environment and inside our system and on our skin, and micro and nanoplastics, we can now break it down into the stuff you actually have agency. And agency is important because it's really hard to change the whole world at once. That's why we do politics, and I hope to see you on the streets at our next protests. But you can make little changes and adaptations that can significantly improve your long-term ability to stay healthy and help your family and friends as well. So that's the recap, and I like recap because I think it's a great little thing. I don't want to go item by item through the different things that you've got in your exposome, because the ways that you manage your exposome boil down to some pretty simple collective things, right? And those are the reduction where you can, exercise for a lot of good reasons, choosing the right things when you have the choice, avoiding things that are terrible, and processes that you can introduce into your day-to-day life that will really make a difference. Collectively, if you can, on all this 360 degrees of inputs that are exposome, if you can dial some of them down, even 5 or 10%, collectively, because they interact, you can have a significant impact on your overall inflammatory system, and that's going to help you with whatever's bugging you. So our acronym is RECAP, and the first R, that's for reduce. Reduce is for the things where you can't eliminate it. You can't do anything about that, but you can reduce it. So one of the big inputs in your exposome are hormonal and other stressors. So you can reduce your stressors somewhat. It's kind of hard to do that if you're living in your car, and this is a great country. We have too many people living in our cars. But you can reduce your stressors to one degree or another just by saying no. Just don't participate in things that stress you out when you can avoid them. I don't have a solution for the driving while black problem. Or speaking Spanish, for instance, in public, no less. Or transgender, for instance. Or just a woman in a man's space. Or like me, you're autistic and sometimes your behavior in public isn't exactly normal enough. These are all stressors, real stressors. That's the stuff we can't do much about. Do what you can to reduce those. Hormonal stressors you can reduce also by avoiding certain kinds of pollutants that you get from highly plastic things. There's a lot of stuff that comes out of plastic that are pseudohormones, and those mess up your system in their own way. So reducing the amount of plastic packaging in your life it's a quick hit. I put those in the same category together because it's not obvious, but because of the way that interacts for us, as men get older, our testosterone goes down, and because of that hormone drop, we experience a harder hit from a lot of other stressors. So we can manage that hormonal reduction in a variety of ways, both medical interventions, dietary, increasing exercise, and so forth. So reduce the hormonal stressors. Perimenopause and menopause are really tough for women in the modern world because dropping estrogen interacts with all the other things. So look at it that way. So that's a place where you can reduce the effect of that hormonal stressor just by doing some simple things. You're going to have to Google it because I am not the professor who can tell you all these things. I don't think any one person understands all of it. It's complicated. Remember, everything interacts 360 degrees. Just try to stick to stuff that's got some peer-reviewed scientific literature, not just because someone on TikTok said so. Another kind of thing that you can reduce is your exposure to fungi and bacteria. Washing your hands. It's so simple, but remember, Exposome 360, all this stuff interrelates. Wash your hands. Try to keep your house clean. If you have or suspect fungi in your house, maybe you can't do anything about it, but can you scrape up 20 or 30 bucks to get a cheap air filter? I've over time accumulated little cheap air filters. We run them in all the rooms in the house, and cumulatively, it makes a huge difference. So reduce your exposures to things like that. Bacterial ones as well. Wash your hands before you eat a hamburger. Wash your vegetables before you cook dinner. Keep your bathroom tidy. It's amazing what you find if you stop and you look at it. The next letter is E. E is for exercise, even a little bit. Exercise is kind of amazing because when you recruit your muscles, they work for you in the moment, but also you are using systems that the body has had created to move you around and keep you functional. Your heart's a muscle, for instance. Your intestines don't move food around without the muscles. And by exercising, you get a lot of really positive chemicals released. It's so technical. There's so many scientific papers. It's constant learning. It changes every week. Just don't believe everything you hear on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. There's these influencers, they're nuts. But exercise is great because it reduces all of the ways in which your body reacts to stresses. It helps your body clear out various pollutions like pesticides and PFAS and all the rest of that, because your body will store that in your fat cells and then it's with you forever. But when you're exercising, you're metabolizing, you're helping your system raise the level of metabolic activity, breaks down more things so that you can excrete them. So exercise is a way of clearing out. You hear about all these cleanses. Cleanses are bullshit. Your liver and your kidneys do their job great. If they didn't, you'd be dead. But exercise makes it work better. So whether that's getting in a little walk, I've got a friend who's a physical therapist, and he works with a lot of people that have serious problems. And he tells them that what he wants them to do is just when they get up out of a chair or sit down in a chair, not to use their arms to help them lift. Over the course of a day, getting in and out of your car, maybe you've got a seat you sit in at an office, you sit in your couch or your favorite chair at home. If every time you sit down and you get up, you don't use your hands, you're doing a squat. And you go to the gym, and if you've got money to spare, you get a personal trainer. You know what one of the big exercises they're going to have you do? Squats. So you can get your squats in, and you don't even have to do anything about it. Take the stairs instead of the elevator if you can. All that kind of stuff. And then lastly, exercise does one other really cool thing. Because of the way that the system and your body are connected, it helps your system manage the bacteria and fungi that you coexist with, the stuff in your intestines that digest your food, what's on your skin, all the rest of that. No one knows why. But exercise changes a whole bunch of things. So exercise is really important. You don't have to join a gym. Don't go out of your way. If you got to walk somewhere, walk a little faster. Do the stairs. You can go online. You can find a million exercises. That's up to you. If you're trying to get all buff, go to town. But if you're just trying to get some exercise, you can speed up a lot of what you normally do, and you can get a lot of practical exercise. That keeps those muscles involved, and that keeps your metabolism working at a higher level. That helps you manage stresses, and it helps your body process the things that you're exposed to. The third letter in recap is C. C is for choose. We live in a highly industrial civilization. We are completely dependent on machines and other people. Even if you grow your own food, you can't do that without the machines. The machines require you to have gasoline or diesel. You're going to need other inputs. We depend on each other, and we depend on complicated systems. Those systems have byproducts. So choose is about picking the things that have the least effect from all the different kinds of inputs. Avoid plastic packaging. Do not reheat your food in plastic. Styrofoam it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. You think, oh, well, I got a sandwich at the deli and it was wrapped in paper, and you stick it in the microwave. Well, the paper is lined with plastic so that it won't stain and will look pretty and it won't leak. And when you heat it up, the stuff that's in the plastic is now in your food. So you choose to take the extra 30 seconds to unwrap your sandwich, to take the dinner that's frozen and put it into a real plate. That's important. That's a big one. You could choose when you go to the grocery to buy food that's less processed instead of more processed, to the extent possible, consistent with your diet, your budget, and the amount of free time you have to actually cook if you have access to a kitchen. These kinds of choices reduce your exposures in a lot of ways. You reduce your plastic exposure, which helps reduce the number of micro and nanoplastics that get into your system. Those things are terrible. You're reducing your exposure to PFAS. You are reducing the number of pesticides and other pollutants that you're exposed to. So you choose between really shitty options and slightly less shitty options. And cumulatively, if you think in this whole 360 exposome way, you can, with each of these little choices, you can reduce multiple inputs at the same time. It's cumulative and it adds up. The next letter in recap is A. A is for avoid. Bad habits. I've had quite a few. Smoking. Very bad habit. Avoid smoking. Avoid nicotine. Avoid the little pouches. If you can, avoid vaping, although I still vape a little bit because I was a hardcore smoker for 40 years, and occasionally if I don't have a fidget and a hit of nicotine, I feel like I want to go start a fight just for the satisfaction and stress relief. So, worst option, intermediate option, less bad option. That's what you want to do, but avoid the worst options. To the extent humanly possible in your life, completely avoid all fast food and processed foods. So basically, a friend of mine once said, the way to eat healthy is you only buy on the outside edges of the grocery store. You go through produce and then the meat and then dairy, right? You work your way around to the bakery, and then you buy whatever else, little things. You make tactical strikes up into the middle of the grocery, but don't buy things in boxes and bags. Processed food is bad inherently. It's lost its vitamins. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. It's fascinating. There's a ton of science. You've heard me say that a lot. You can research it. Don't believe everything you see on Instagram and TikTok, please. But to the extent that you can eliminate processed and fast foods, you will significantly improve your overall health, because when you look at all the things in your exposome, processed and fast foods have pretty much everything wrong with them. Microplastics, nanoplastics, phthalates, PFAS, all that stuff coming from the plastic, because that stuff is packed in plastic, then it's moved to a factory in bulk where it's unpacked, and then it's processed, and then a whole bunch of stuff happens. Then it's put in more plastic, and then that plastic is moved to someplace else. And by the time it gets to you, it's been through that 2, 3, 5, 7, 12 times. Not good. Fast food is processed food that's then assembled, not cooked, assembled, and then it's wrapped up in more plastic. And in order to make fast food work, they have to put a bunch of stuff in. The food inputs are the products of the most highly industrialized processes. And if you want to be truly terrified, you could go look at what happens in high volume poultry processing. For instance, they can kill a chicken in Gainesville, Georgia, and half process it there. Then they fill trailers full of frozen birds. They ship them somewhere else, where then they're taken apart, and then they're turned into those chicken thighs that you see, which are then repackaged in plastic in bulk, and then they go to a distribution facility where they are broken down to smaller packages that go to the grocery store, and then those people, they put them in foam and wrap them with plastic. And they're allowed to wash them and sterilize them with basically chlorine bleach and a whole bunch of other stuff. So just avoid it. I know you can't avoid it completely. Some of you have work schedules where you're not going to be spending 2 hours every weekend just putting together a pot of beans, because you ain't got the time. So to the extent you can, avoid it. Just avoid it. And if you really can, don't smoke, don't drink, and don't eat fast food. And don't eat that weird stuff that comes in crinkly bags or weird boxes or out of the freezer section of the grocery. And recap ends with the letter P. P is for process. There are a lot of things you can do to process in your life that'll make your health better. So a big one is, for instance, to reduce micro and nanoplastics, wash your produce. Also, wash your hands if you're eating tacos or a burger or French fries. You'd be amazed at how much stuff we pick up. It's not just bacteria. But process, washing your hands and washing your foods dramatically reduces your burden of exposure to various bacteria and fungi. And other processes like washing your kitchen sink and your counters, washing your bathroom, dramatically reduces your exposures. It doesn't just deal with bacteria, it deals with all the dust, which is made up in large part of things that will give you allergies, dust and dander, microplastics, nanoplastics, fragments of this and that, microfibers, things from your clothes, pieces of hair, flakes of skin. Wash. It's a process. Just get in the habit. It also reduces your in-your-house exposure to pesticides and other pollutants. If you live in an industrial area, the dust in your house is a toxin. If you were to collect it all for a few weeks and put it in a coffee can, it would technically be illegal for you to throw that in your trash because of how much pollution is in it. So dusting and cleaning is a process that dramatically improves your health because it manages a whole bunch of these different inputs. Wash your foods, wash your hands, clean your house. It just seems so old-fashioned, doesn't it? It's what our grandmothers used to tell us all the time. You go out and you play, you come in the house, take off your shoes, wash your hands. Makes a difference. It really does. The point of all of this and the recap idea, right? Reduce, exercise, choose, avoid, and process is just to load your mind up with a bunch of little things you can do as I call them micro adaptations. So you don't have to change everything in your life all at once, but you can make small changes as you go. So you get in the habit of keeping nuts or some carrot sticks or something with you, you discover you're not buying processed snack foods as much. Boom, that's a win. It's a double win because you're eating something that's actively good for you and you're avoiding something that's actively bad for you. Every time you skip a meal that you would have bought in a drive-through, you've done your system a favor. You have dramatically improved your exposome. Okay? These systems are all connected. You have agency. You may not feel like you have a lot of agency, but these are like little things that I've collected over the course of my life that are well substantiated by the scientific literature and that are well backed up by the way that different studies have shown how these things interact. My next segment, I'm going to go into the sources of the things that are worst in our exposome, and those are the things we can't do anything about individually, but we can do something about collectively. But first, I want you to know that you can do something. You can make one simple change today. Just don't use your arms when you get up out of your chair and sit back down. You just did a squat. If you do that 20 times today, you exercised. Walk a little faster. Remember to wash your hands. Take your shoes off when you come in your front door. Little things, they add up, and they're really important, especially given how bad the situation is right now for so many people, and especially if you've got kids. My God, there's a lot of things in our environment now that have never existed before. We live in an unprecedented situation. So do what you can individually, and in the next section, we'll talk about things that we can only do together collectively.